Greetings. Today we shall present our work on the stakeholders' perspective on planning, restoration, and management of the coastline of Mauritius, using a thematic analysis approach. The authors of this work include Ms. Myrna Jharittay and myself, Dr. Reshma Rughooputh. The table of contents comprise the introduction, literature review, the research methodology, some key results and discussion, as well as the conclusion and recommendations. Mauritius forms part of the Small Island Developing States, SIDS, with a 322-kilometer coastline, which represents the ecological, economic, and cultural asset of the island. Now, similar to other SIDS, that is Small Island Developing States, the Mauritian coastline is also subjected to risks such as rising sea levels, coastal erosion, and unchecked development. JUVAT 2020 highlighted that even though the Mauritian government has put in place an integrated coastal zone management (ICZM) policy framework and recognized climate change adaptation as a priority, there remains a disconnect between national policies and individual projects. Therefore, this research was born out of a simple yet potent question. How do the perceptions and experiences of key stakeholders reveal the operational challenges of coastal management in Mauritius? And how can these insights form a more integrated and socially responsible framework? Hence, the study aimed at identifying critical gaps and opportunities for more effective coastal governance by integrating thematic findings on stakeholders' perceptions with ICZM principles. The key objectives included: first, literature review to establish the subject context; second, to produce a semi-structured set of interviews with key informants; third, to generate codes, themes, and sub-themes via thematic analysis; and fourth, to corroborate themes and propose insights for improvement for policymakers and communities. Coincidentally, the third UN Ocean Conference held in 2025 and one of its Ocean Action Panel focused on conserving, sustainably managing, and restoring marine and coastal ecosystems, including deep-sea ecosystems. To understand how these dynamics were linked to the matter at hand, the methodology was devised. A qualitative approach was favored during the course of this study. The methodology was adapted from the methodology developed by Kenning and Dinaponre 2024 for identifying key informants and governance elements. Non-probability purposive sampling and snowballing was used to select knowledgeable and experienced stakeholders, with the LinkedIn app extensively used to identify and to connect with potential interviewees. Data collection was carried out through interviews that were pilot tested prior to deployment. A total of 15 in-depth semi-structured interviews were across 4 categories: public NGOs, local authorities, scientific community, and economic actors. The stakeholder-informed management framework put forward by Davis and Volome et al. 2025 was used as inspiration to construct a visual representation of coastal stakeholders. And this is being now displayed on screen. Additional data was also collected through workshops organized by different entities. Finally, the thematic analysis of stakeholder interviews revealed 3 main interconnected themes. Theme 1, coastal significance, that is, recognition of the critical importance of the coast, but also its extreme vulnerability. Theme 2, systemic challenges, that is, the co-operational and institutional obstacles hindering effective ICZM. And the third theme, that is theme 3, the need for strategic clarity and policy alignment, and the demand for a cohesive vision and enforcement of laws. Hence, through theme 1, that is the significance of the coastline, through the first theme, stakeholders emphasize the coastline's significant role in social identity, economic activity, and environmental protection. However, they express concern over degradation due to erosion, pollution, and climate change. Theme 2, the systemic challenges theme, captured the main obstacles to ICZM implementation as perceived by stakeholders and exposed deep-rooted governance issues. And this can be also displayed in our chart that we have devised and which is now being projected on screen. From the third theme, stakeholders called for a paradigm shift, the need for strategic clarity and policy alignment, from fragmented reactive measures to a cohesive long-term strategy, advocating for inclusive governance, the need for decision-making to be based on scientific data, recognition of local and traditional knowledge, and transparent monitoring and co-creation. Emergent themes from stakeholders' perspective purport finding of past studies carried out and show close alignment of stakeholders' perceptions with outcomes of UNOC 2025, highlighting the growing concern of the need to act now. Despite the consistent narrative of the multifaceted importance of the coastline, perception that certain stakeholders were more favored than others persisted. The primary gap between the high-level rhetoric of integrated management and the ineffective operational reality shows that stakeholders desire a shift from being told to being intricately involved in problem definition and solution implementation. The crux of the responses tended towards lack of political will and inadequate enforcement of law. A perceived lack of continuity and strategy, exemplified by unilateral governmental decisions, undermines the core principle of ICZM. The findings affirm that institutional fragmentation and weak enforcement, as noted, continue to be the biggest barriers. Yes, Mauritius has made commendable efforts in establishing an ICZM framework. However, despite this, implementation still remains fragmented. Ministries operate in silos, enforcement is inconsistent, and community voices are often sidelined. Based on the findings, 6 key recommendations were proposed. First, strengthen political will and accountability. Second, break institutional silos. Third, enforce existing laws. Fourth, foster genuine stakeholders co-creation. Fifth, bridge the gap between science and policy. Six, invest in long-term monitorings. These recommendations center on the government acting as the central figure to foster genuine engagement and ensure honest discussions and equal participation among stakeholders. Continued and transparent effort from the government is essential to foster the collaboration needed to overcome these systemic challenges. I thank you for your kind attention and now welcome any question from the audience.